Welcome, I am Rael Zieve and your host for Keep Traveling Your African Vacation, the only podcast which brings you insightful information in the African tourism industry by real tourism professionals. Today we have another great episode to bring you, and I have the pleasure of introducing Neil Whyte, who's the General Manager at Savannah Private Game Reserve. Neil, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rael. Good to be here.
Thank you for coming on board. Can you tell me whereabouts in Africa your property is located?
So Savannah is part of the world-renowned Sabi Sands Private Game Reserve. So we're right down in South Africa, or specifically on the western border of the Kruger National Park, also world-renowned, and eastern parts of South Africa, down in the leopard.
Okay. Now tell me, was it always the plan to be in the tourism business as far as you're concerned?
No, not really. I was very fortunate to have grown up in the Kruger National Park. My father was an ecologist and worked in the Kruger National Park for the scientific services for about 37 years. So I was born into the wildlife side of things. I didn't really know much about the tourism side of wildlife as a child, and always was expecting to follow in his footsteps into the sciences and ecology, or potentially into the section range part of the conservation, which is different to our kind of rangers. A lot of people refer to us as rangers, but I prefer the term guide. Sectional rangers are the guys who look after the reserve and doing the conservation, wildlife management, roads, anti-erosion, and these days more of the anti-poaching side. So it was either going to be conservation or wildlife management. And at the time when I finished my studies, I did an honours in zoology and didn't quite finish a master's in ecology. But when it was nearing the end of the studies, I applied for a position in the Kruger Park. And at the political time, getting a position in the new government was a bit more tricky. So I thought I'll just go and work in the private reserves for a couple of years. Thought it would be just a part-time job, and it was a very fortuitous move because I actually very quickly discovered that science is not for me, and I love people. And I started in 2000 as a guide, and I've really never looked back.
Now tell me, what makes your property different from the others around you?
That's a tough question. One of the advantages of the Sabi Sands, I think, is the huge variety of styles of lodges. I think there's something like 45 lodges, maybe even more, in the Sabi Sands, and they all come with completely or subtly different management styles. I think one of the things that sets Savannah apart is our stay closer to nature. I think there's been a lot of competition in the industry and in the five-star industry particularly. So you're getting bigger rooms, better rooms, Michelin star chefs, beautiful wine cellars, spa treatments. I personally feel that's detracting a little bit from the wildlife side. I think we try to keep the safari side of our business at the core, and everything else supports it and supports that experience, rather than safari just being a leg of your safari. I think that's one of the big differences. And then the authenticity of the people and the staff is always commented on. Very genuine, home away from home, very comfortable, understated five-star luxury, I think, is what sets us apart.
Okay, what do guests always rave about after they've left your property?
Yeah, definitely that. I think the staff and the connection that they make, we have a very high return rate of guests. We almost always have somebody in camp that has been before, and they come 5, 6, 10 times. I think our record is now 27, 28 visits. They make a connection with the people. Our staff turnover is very slow, so people know they're returning to the same people. Yeah, really home away from home, a friendship connection, and in the wildlife, that's our focus. We really concentrate on highlighting. It sounds corny in the safari industry, but I do think that's being neglected a little bit. We don't have a time that we have to be back at the lodge for breakfast, so if something good's happening, we stay out there.
Neil, obviously you have a very busy day and you're always on the go, but do you have a favorite spot on the property where you perhaps go to breathe?
My veranda. We're very blessed. We've got a lovely home. Overlooks part of the reserve. Our garden is fantastic, and to sit on the veranda early morning at the sunrise. We've got a couple of bird feeders. That time in the morning and in the afternoon is just very special. We often say we have the best life, best job. Our home, you can't put a price on it, I don't think. To be able to sit there, and it's 2 minutes walk from the office, so we can get there anytime, all the time. Very peaceful. Actually watching some impalas and wildebeest coming down the waterhole now as I'm talking to you.
Tell me, how do you make guests feel at home, especially ones coming from, you're talking about the repeats, I understand that, but the ones that are coming perhaps for the first time and from far away places? How do you make them feel at home at Savannah Private Game Reserve?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think authenticity. I've met lots of guides and people in the industry, and there's a very clear distinction between people who genuinely want to be in that position with guests. A lot of people fall into this industry because they love the bush but aren't so natural with people. And I think this industry is almost more important the other way around. People skills and wanting to be with people is the first key to this industry. And then the rest, the bush just does its own thing. So I think we're very fortunate in the type of clientele we get, really genuine, authentic people, friendly people. And I just love meeting them, meeting people from all over the world who've got fantastic stories. Often they come to Savannah from other parts of their trip in Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia. And so connecting with people with their passion, our passions, and the authenticity, the genuine desire to want to make this the best trip that people can have. Humor always works really well. Reaching out and connecting in a very authentic way is paramount.
Yeah, sure. I wonder that a sense of humor in South Africa matches with a lot of sense of humors from around the world. I sometimes wonder about that.
I think that's true, but I think in many cases it's refreshing for people because humor is being lost elsewhere, and the ability to be able to laugh at oneself and others in an honest way. I think people often comment South Africans are the friendliest people they've met. And I think our ability to laugh at ourselves, at the struggles we go through in this country, and despite all of that, finding humor and positivity is what opens people up, I think.
I agree with you. What's been one of the most rewarding experiences that you've had with a guest?
Whoa, I have to think about that for a bit. There's many. One that always comes to mind was a time we had, and I mentioned it earlier, we're not limited by time to get back to the lodge and a time for breakfast. I remember one day we were sitting with a female leopard, 2 cubs, way in the north of the property, and it was late in the morning drive already. One couple had been with us for many visits and were good regulars, and another couple was on, I think it was their first trip. Other leopard was sleeping in the tree, the 2 cubs in some thicket sleeping, and this was the case for about 20 minutes. So I said, okay, shall we start heading back to camp? And they said, okay, yeah, they're very agreeable. And I got the sense that there was a bit of disappointment. And I said, do you want to go back? We don't have to go back. We can sit and spend some more time here and see if the cubs wake up. And they go, oh wow, can't we? And I said, no problem. And we sat for another 20 minutes, half an hour. And then, as we all know, leopards don't sleep for a hell of a long, particularly the cubs started moving about and they started interacting with the mother, playing. And so I called the lodge, the radio, and said any way they could send up some snacks. They obviously jumped to it in 45 minutes, came out of the food, and we spent, 5 hours with these leopards and the cubs. And just that enjoyment, the preparedness of the guests to just sit out there and wait and just see their enjoyment of that moment was extremely rewarding in many ways and very special. Nobody else there, just quality time.
Sure, I can relate to that. It is quite special when you show people the African wild for the first time and you can maybe see that look on their faces like, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
This is something we've never seen before.
I think that's one of the things that always strikes me as, I use the word privilege, probably a little bit too much, but it really is a privilege to be able to experience it vicariously through them. Like I said, I was born in the Kruger Park, so I personally don't know that feeling of seeing an elephant come up to the vehicle for the first time, or a lion or a leopard cub playing with its mother for the first time. I don't know what that feels like because I've always been fortunate and privileged to have that experience, but to see it through their eyes really drives home the immense privilege we have of doing this every day and being able to show it to people for the first time or the 30th time and just enjoy it through them. It's extremely rewarding.
Do you have any funny or touching stories from your time in the bush in Kruger? And again, obviously there are many, but there's maybe 1 or 2 that you can recount that, that you're going to tell the grandkids one day about how you fought off 3 lions and boast a little bit about it.
There are a few. My dad has probably got a whole bunch more because when they grew up and was in the Kruger Park, it was much more the Wild West than now. Being with people in this environment and watching, it's so foreign to them and they haven't often thought through things. So we've often spoken about writing down these stories with guests, and the funny things that they say and ask is always very entertaining. I've had a couple of close calls, which I guess wouldn't be funny. It's humorous. You think back at it and you go, what an idiot. The long story, just short if I can, was during COVID there was a drought or a very dry period, and somebody reported to us that there was a dead hippo in a dam. And I know that the Sabi Sands and the Kruger area would like to, anything that dies guys in strange circumstances, they want to make sure that it's not a disease like anthrax or something, so they would want to take blood. So I immediately called the Sabi Sands and said there's apparently a dead hippo. So their first question was, is it obvious that it was killed in a fight or not? And I said, actually, I haven't seen it. So they asked me to go and have a look, and I went to the dam where this hippo was dead, and we got to it, and water level was pretty low. It couldn't submerge. It was just too shallow. But you could just see the back sticking out. And the guides that were with me went up to the edge and stood there. Now, hippo can hold its breath for a while, so we waited and didn't see it move at all. Took a couple of rocks and sticks and threw it at the hippo, and obviously it didn't react, and there's no movement at all. 20 minutes we sat there, didn't see anything move. So now it's in the middle of the dam. We don't want it rotting in the dam, so we knew we'd have to tow it out so the guys can get to it as well to do the blood tests. Drove back to the camp, got a tow rope, went back to the dam and making sure. Did the same procedure again. Spent 20 minutes there chatting and throwing rocks at it, and it didn't move, obviously. So we said, okay, and then started joking about maybe there's crocodiles, but it's a small pond, so there wasn't likely crocodiles, and we started wading into this dam. I got to about 10 or 12 meters in from the edge and only about 3 meters from the hippo, and then this thing woke up. Yeah, hippos are one of the most dangerous animals in Africa, and this hippo was 3 meters from me waking up and looking at me, and I got 10, 12 meters back to the edge, knowing how fast hippos were. I just knew that this was the end. This isn't going to end well. But fortunately for me, the hippo dashed the other way. Also got a big fright. Was surprised, ran about 10, 15 meters the other way, and that gave me time to get to the bank, and unfortunately he didn't chase after me. But a really stupid thing to do in retrospect.
I'm not gonna ask you about what your pants looked like when you came out of there.
Fortunately, it was very muddy in the dam, so it was all clear. Yeah, good
Camouflage.
Good camouflage, but that was stupid.
Neil, can you tell me about somebody within your staff or community that you believe really makes a big difference?
We're really blessed. The Shangaan people are truly amazing people, extremely friendly, community orientated, and there are so many people that are living around the edge of the Sabi Sands. I forget the statistics offhand. I think the Sabi Sands and Kruger employs something like 3,000 or 4,000 people. Each village surrounding the Sabi Sands is 25,000 people. So there's 150, 200,000 people living around the edge of the Sabi Sands. There's a lot of poverty, a lot of strife in these communities, and to see the number of people that come out of those communities with positivity is quite unbelievable. So there's a host of them. There was one guy, Nico, who works with us. He's a qualified nurse, but couldn't find a job when he qualified. So he came back to his community and started an old age nursing home. And somebody gave him a house that was available, a very rundown house. Had a roof over their head, and he started taking in these elderly people, and they were literally sleeping on the floor, but he was taking care of them as best he could. Our community work, we heard about him and started partnering with him, and that has now grown to an elderly care center that's supporting, I think, about 75 elderly residents with about 20 full-time nurses. And he just dedicated his life to helping the elderly and wasn't getting paid for it when he started. There was no recognition, no help. And there's a lot of people like Nico out there that are doing their bit for the community. And people like him are amazing. He's quite an amazing guy.
Yeah, that's very honorable to be able to do something like that.
He's selfless.
So good luck to him. Good luck to him.
He's done well.
What are your hopes for your property and Sabi and Kruger for the future? Things are changing so rapidly in the world today. What are your hopes for the foreseeable future?
There's probably twofold. One is conservation. I think Kruger Park faces a lot of challenges with management, and particularly things like the elephant population. And there's a big challenge coming, I think, with being able to manage what we feel is the right way to manage a property from a scientific point of view and a conservation point of view in the huge spotlight that has become the social media and internet now. And unfortunately, 95% of the people have good intentions but have got no clue about the complexities of conservation. And I think that's going to be one of the greatest challenges going forward from an environmental point of view, is bridging that gap between what has to be done and what people want you to do. I don't know where the answer is with that, because social media is just a very dangerous, very powerful tool that doesn't always have the best information at hand to the people that are interested and concerned. So it's a very powerful thing, but I think it has the potential to derail a lot of good work that people want to do. That's the environmental side. I think from a community side, one of the things I always say to people, when I started here 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I remember being told as a guide, stay away from the edge of the reserve because we don't want people to see the communities, we don't want to see the lights, we don't want to see what's outside the reserve. And I think we like to keep our blinkers on and put our head in the sand and not admit what was out there. And I think what's been really uplifting in the last 20, 25 years is literally the 180 to that. People are now asking properties and lodges, what is it that you're doing for the community and how is the community benefiting from my visit to your property and how can we help these communities? And I think that's extremely positive. I think it's where the future of conservation is going. If we don't include them, if we don't look after them, if we don't help them see the value of conservation areas, it's going to get lost. And there's a very big push towards involving the communities. We're doing school safaris now for the communities. Every day in between game drives, the Sabi Sands are taking kids from the local schools on safari and taking them and showing them and educating them. And I think that's the way forward. My hope and very positive belief is that is the way it is going and will go. And we can really incorporate the community to benefit better and more positively as they already have been doing, but even more in the next 20 years.
Yeah, listen, I couldn't agree with you more. I think education is top priority. And I'm not just talking about schoolroom education, practical education,
Absolutely.
Teaching people about the benefits of tourism, as an example, the benefits of conservation, etc. Yeah, I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah, 100%.
Neil, what would you say to somebody coming from overseas who's pretty nervous about traveling to Africa for the first time?
So we talk about this quite a bit, but I think South Africa is, we all know, is a complete dichotomy of two halves. There's the first world in the third world. And I understand the nervousness of coming to Africa. And if you're coming, we were actually just talking about it on Game Drive this morning. If you're coming for the first time, firstly, don't be nervous. It is an incredibly beautiful, friendly, unbelievable country. Every single person that I've met has just been blown away by it. So don't be nervous. But secondly is to use a reputable travel agent. They understand distances, areas, the best parts of South Africa and can assist in making sure that your trip is as effortless and smooth as possible. There's definitely areas you would want to avoid, like every country and every city. And these guys, the travel agents, know those routes, know those things. So go through a reputable travel agent. They make it seamless and you will just not know why anybody ever made you nervous of South Africa. It's just an incredible place. People are unbelievable. People are incredibly friendly. Just go. Don't be nervous.
Finishing off now, Neil, where can people find you online and follow your story?
On our website, savannalodge.com, and then on our social medias, we've got Facebook, Instagram, Savannah Private Game Reserve. Yeah, those are the easy ones.
Listen, Neil, thank you very much for spending your valuable time with us. I really appreciate the energy that you brought and telling us a few stories about Savannah Private Game Reserve.
Wonderful to have been with you and chat to you. And yeah, look forward to another one sometime.
That was Neil Whyte from Savannah Private Game Reserve. If you enjoyed the show, please rate the show on Apple Podcasts or drop me an email. All the details can be found in the show notes of this episode or head over to www.wildsunsets.travel/podcast. Tune in again next week when I'll be chatting to another great African tourism professional. My name is Rael Zieve, and consider this. A few years from now, you will not remember how much it cost you, but you will still remember the memories you made. Keep traveling.